There will be days when everything goes wrong, not one thing, everything. You wake up with a plan, and within hours the plan is destroyed. Someone disappoints you, money disappears, a door you expected to open suddenly closes, a person you trusted changes. Bad news arrives, your work fails, your patience disappears, and before you can recover from one problem, another one appears. This is where most people lose control, not because the situation is impossible, but because somewhere inside them, they made an invisible agreement with life. Things are supposed to go my way. The moment reality breaks that agreement, anger begins. Why me? Why now? Why did this happen? Why can't anything go right? And suddenly, you are fighting two battles. The first battle is the actual problem. The second is your resistance to the fact that the problem exists. The Stoics understood that the second battle is often far more destructive than the first, because reality does not become easier simply because you refuse to accept it. The storm does not stop because you are angry. The person does not change because you are disappointed. The past does not rewrite itself because you regret it. And tomorrow does not guarantee anything because you are afraid. Yet human beings spend enormous amounts of energy demanding that reality become different from what it already is. Marcus Aurelius could not afford that luxury. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that millions of people depended on your decisions. Rome was not peaceful. Its borders were under pressure. War demanded soldiers. Disease moved through the empire. Political enemies watched for weakness. People he loved died. Plans failed. Generals made mistakes. Nature did not ask the emperor for permission before bringing disaster, and despite possessing more political power than almost anyone alive, Marcus repeatedly confronted the same humiliating truth. There were still countless things he could not control. His title could command armies. It could not command fate. His authority could punish a traitor. It could not prevent betrayal. His wealth could build palaces. It could not purchase another day for someone dying. His power could influence an empire, but it could not force reality to obey him. This is where Stoicism begins, not with control, with the recognition of its limits. Most people believe peace will arrive when they finally control enough of life, when the money is right, when the relationship is stable, when everyone respects them, when the future becomes predictable, when their body is healthy, when their career is secure, when nothing unexpected can hurt them. Then they will be calm. But that day never comes, because life was never designed to remain still long enough for you to feel completely safe. There will always be another variable, another person, another uncertainty, another possibility, another loss, another storm somewhere beyond the horizon. If your peace depends on controlling all of them, you have built your peace on something impossible. Epictetus saw this problem clearly. Some things are up to us. Others are not. Simple words. But almost every unnecessary form of suffering begins when we confuse the two. Someone insults you. Their words are not yours. Your response is, someone rejects you. Their decision is not yours. What you do next is. The economy changes, not yours. Your spending, preparation, work and judgment, yours. Someone betrays you. Their character is theirs. What betrayal turns you into, that belongs to you. This distinction sounds almost too simple, but simple does not mean easy. Because the human mind wants control, it wants certainty, it wants guarantees, and when it cannot get them, it tries to manufacture them through worry. You replay the situation, you imagine every possible outcome, you prepare arguments for conversations that may never happen. You try to predict tomorrow, again, and again, and again. It feels productive because your mind is busy. But often, nothing is being solved. You are simply trying to think your way into certainty, and certainty does not exist. This is why calm people are not necessarily people with easier lives. Often, they have simply stopped demanding guarantees from life. They understand that a plan is useful, but reality is not obligated to follow it. They prepare carefully. Without believing, preparation gives them control over everything. They love deeply. Without pretending, nothing can ever be lost. They work seriously. Without demanding that effort always produce victory, they move forward. Without requiring the road to be predictable, that is not pessimism. It is strength without illusion. Imagine a sailor entering the sea. A foolish sailor demands calm water. A wise sailor learns how to navigate waves. One builds his confidence around the weather. The other builds his confidence around his ability to respond. And when the storm arrives, the difference becomes obvious. This is exactly what Stoicism tries to build inside you. Not a life without storms, a mind that knows how to stand inside them. Because something will eventually go wrong. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next month, maybe years from now. You cannot know, but you can decide something before that moment arrives. You can decide that when reality refuses to follow your plan, you will not immediately surrender your mind with it. You will stop, observe, separate the event from your reaction. Ask what actually happened. Then, what belongs to me now? Not yesterday, not what should have happened, not what another person should have done. Now, what can I control? What decision remains mine? What action can still be taken? That is where power returns. Not when the storm disappears, but when you stop asking the storm for permission to remain yourself. There is a moment after something goes wrong, when reality has already changed, but your mind refuses to follow. The relationship is over. The opportunity is gone. The money has been lost. The mistake has been made. The words have already been spoken. The decision has already been taken. Reality has moved forward, but you remain behind, arguing with a moment that no longer exists. You think, this shouldn't have happened. Maybe it shouldn't have, but it did. And that distinction changes everything, because once something has happened, your refusal to accept it does not reverse it. It only allows the event to continue hurting you long after the event itself has ended. This is one of the most difficult Stoic lessons to understand. Acceptance is not approval. You do not have to like what happened. You do not have to call injustice fair. You do not have to pretend betrayal didn't hurt. You do not have to smile while your plans collapse. Acceptance simply means refusing to waste your strength fighting reality itself. Imagine dropping a glass onto a stone floor. It shatters. You can become furious. You can scream. You can spend the next hour explaining why the glass should not have fallen. You can blame yourself. You can blame someone else. You can replay the moment 100 times, but eventually you still have to deal with the broken glass. The Stoic tries to reach that moment faster, not because he feels nothing, but because he understands that emotional resistance cannot repair what reality has already broken. This principle becomes much harder when the thing that breaks isn't glass. Marcus Aurelius knew loss intimately. During his reign, the Roman Empire was devastated by a massive epidemic commonly associated with the Antonine Plague. People died across the empire. Soldiers died. Citizens died. The machinery of Rome was placed under enormous pressure. At the same time, Marcus faced wars along the empire's borders. He spent years away from the comfort of Rome, and his personal life offered no escape from mortality. Several of his children died before him. His teacher and adoptive father, Antoninus Pius, died. People he trusted disappeared. Eventually, His co-emperor Lucius Verus died as well. Marcus was emperor, but grief did not bow before the throne. And this is where his philosophy becomes real. Stoicism was not developed in a quiet room by people who never experienced suffering. Its ideas were tested against disease, exile, slavery, political danger, death, betrayal, and uncertainty. The Stoics did not ask, "How do I make sure nothing painful happens?" They asked, "How do I remain worthy of myself when it does?" That is a completely different question, and perhaps a much more useful one, because if your philosophy only works when life is comfortable, it is not philosophy, it is decoration. Seneca understood this. His fortunes changed dramatically throughout his life. Influence, exile, wealth, political danger, return, power, and eventually death under imperial command. His life was a reminder that fortune can change direction without warning. Today, people praise you. Tomorrow, they forget you. Today, you possess something. Tomorrow, it belongs to someone else. Today, your plan looks certain. Tomorrow, one phone call can destroy it. This is not a reason to live in fear. It is a reason to stop building your peace on permanence. Everything outside you is moving. Money moves, status moves. Relationships change. Bodies age. Markets rise and fall. People enter your life and people leave. Even your own thoughts change from one hour to another. Yet we keep trying to construct permanent emotional security from temporary things. Then we are shocked when they move. The Stoic response is not, "Nothing matters." It is almost the opposite. Appreciate things precisely because they are temporary. Love people while they are here. Use money wisely while you possess it. Protect your health while you have it. Do your work while you still have time. Enjoy success without believing it belongs to you forever. Because gratitude and attachment are not the same thing. Gratitude says, "I am fortunate to experience this." Attachment says, "This must never change." One creates appreciation, the other creates fear. And fear makes you fragile. You begin guarding everything, your reputation, your position, your possessions, your relationships, your image. You become terrified that life might take something away. Eventually, you stop enjoying what you have because you are too busy imagining its disappearance. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that change was part of nature. Look around you. Everything is becoming something else. A seed becomes a tree. Day becomes night. Summer becomes winter. Children become adults. Buildings become ruins. Empires become history. Why would your life be exempt? The problem is not change. The problem is demanding permanence from a universe built on change. Once you understand that, something inside you begins to loosen. You still care. You still work. You still protect what matters. But you stop believing that losing something means losing yourself. And this gives you an enormous advantage when life turns against you. Instead of asking, "How do I get my old life back?" you begin asking, "What does this new reality require from me?" That question moves you forward. Maybe it requires patience, maybe courage, maybe restraint, maybe starting again, maybe walking away, maybe admitting that you were wrong, maybe accepting that someone will never understand you, maybe rebuilding something you thought would last forever. Whatever the answer, there is almost always something left within your control, and that is where the Stoic places his attention. Not on the door that closed, on the door he can still open, not on the money already lost, on the next financial decision. Not on yesterday's mistake, on today's behavior, not on another person's character, on his own. Because calm does not come from pretending that everything is fine. Sometimes everything is not fine. Calm comes from knowing that even when circumstances become chaotic, you still have a role to play. You still have choices, you still have principles, you still have the next action. And as long as you possess that, you are not powerless. The world may have changed without asking you, but what happens next is not entirely up to the world. Part of it still belongs to you. Anyone can appear calm when nothing is happening, when the money is secure, when people agree with you, when the plan is working, when your body feels strong, when nobody is challenging your ego. That is not composure. That is comfort. Your character becomes visible when something disturbs the conditions you expected. Someone disrespects you. A plan collapses. You receive bad news. You lose something valuable. You are blamed for something you did not do. You discover that someone you trusted was not who you thought they were. And suddenly, your body wants to react before your mind has understood what happened. Your heart beats faster, your muscles tighten, your breathing changes, your thoughts accelerate, and somewhere inside you, a voice demands immediate action. Say something. Do something. Make them regret it. Fix this now. This is the moment where power is either kept or surrendered. Because the first emotion is often automatic, but the second action does not have to be. You may not control the arrival of anger. You can control whether anger receives authority. You may not control the arrival of fear. You can control whether fear chooses your direction. You may not control the shock of bad news. You can control whether shock becomes panic. This is why the Stoics placed such enormous value on judgment. Between what happens and what you do, there is a space. Sometimes that space lasts only a few seconds, but those seconds can save relationships, careers, money, reputations, years of regret. A person who cannot tolerate those few seconds becomes easy to control. All someone has to do is provoke him, insult him, and he reacts. Ignore him, and he becomes desperate. Praise him, and he becomes dependent. Criticize him, and he loses confidence. Tempt him, and he abandons his principles. The world learns which buttons to press, and he spends his life responding. That is why calm is not weakness. Calm makes you difficult to manipulate. Imagine two commanders standing on a battlefield. Both receive the same message. The enemy has broken through one side of the line. The first commander panics. He shouts contradictory orders. He moves soldiers without understanding the situation. His fear spreads through everyone around him. A single problem becomes 10 problems. The second commander feels the same urgency, but he pauses. He asks what is known, what is unknown, where is the actual threat, what resources remain, what decision must be made now. The danger has not changed, the commander has, and because he remains capable of judgment, he remains capable of action. Your daily life works the same way. You may never command an army, but you command decisions. And every crisis tries to take command away from you. This is why one of the most useful habits you can build is deceptively simple. Delay the reaction, not forever, just long enough for reason to return. When you receive the message that makes you furious, do not answer immediately. When someone provokes you, do not give them the instant reaction they expected. When fear tells you everything is collapsing, do not make a permanent decision inside a temporary emotional storm. Walk, breathe, wait, look again. Ask yourself, what do I know for certain? Then, what am I adding to the situation? This second question is brutal because often the event is painful, but your interpretation makes it unbearable. A person does not reply. In fact, your mind says, they don't respect me. Interpretation, a project fails. Fact, your mind says, I will never succeed. Interpretation, you lose money. Fact, your mind says, my future is destroyed. Interpretation, someone criticizes you. Fact, your mind says, everyone thinks I'm worthless. Interpretation, Notice how quickly the mind transforms one event into an entire story, and then you react to the story as though it were reality. Epictetus repeatedly returned to this distinction. Events reach us, then judgments begin, and if you never examine those judgments, your mind becomes a machine that turns inconvenience into catastrophe. The Stoic interrupts that machine. He says, describe the event without adding anything. Not, my life is falling apart. Instead, this plan failed. Not, everyone is against me. Instead, this person disagreed with me. Not, I have lost everything. Instead, I lost this particular thing. Not, I can't handle this. Instead, this is difficult, and I have not yet decided what to do. Language matters because the words you use inside your own mind determine the size of the enemy you believe you are facing. Turn a setback into a catastrophe, and your body prepares for catastrophe. Describe it accurately, and suddenly the problem becomes something you can examine. This does not mean lying to yourself. If something is terrible, call it terrible. If you made a mistake, admit the mistake. If there is danger, respect the danger. Stoicism is not pretending the building is not burning, it is refusing to scream so loudly that you forget where the exit is. And this is where Marcus Aurelius becomes especially useful. He had responsibilities that could not simply be abandoned whenever he felt overwhelmed. An emperor could not tell an invading army, I am emotionally exhausted today. Disease did not pause because Marcus needed rest. Political problems did not disappear because he was grieving. He still had to decide, still had to lead, still had to wake up, still had to perform the duty in front of him. That word matters, duty, because when chaos becomes overwhelming, duty simplifies life. You stop asking, how do I solve everything? And instead, ask, what is my responsibility in this moment? Maybe your responsibility is to make one phone call. Maybe it is to apologize. Maybe it is to say nothing. Maybe it is to protect your money. Maybe it is to leave. Maybe it is to stay. Maybe it is simply to survive today without making tomorrow worse. You do not need to solve your entire future tonight. You need to handle the piece of reality currently in your hands. This is how mountains are crossed. Not by carrying the entire mountain, but by taking the next step. And there is something else that happens when you practice this repeatedly. People begin noticing. Not because you tell them you are Stoic, not because you quote Marcus Aurelius, but because when everyone else becomes chaotic, you become clearer. When everyone else reacts, you observe. When everyone else complains, you look for the next action. When everyone else needs someone to blame, you ask what can still be done. That kind of calm creates authority, not loud authority, not dominance, something stronger. Trust. People trust the person who does not collapse when circumstances become difficult. And eventually, you begin trusting yourself for the same reason. You stop fearing every future problem because you have accumulated evidence. Evidence that you can lose something and continue. Evidence that you can be disappointed and remain rational. Evidence that you can experience uncertainty without becoming paralyzed. Evidence that a bad day does not have to become a bad month. And then your confidence changes. You no longer say, I hope nothing goes wrong. You begin saying, if something goes wrong, I will deal with it. That is a completely different way to live, because now your peace is no longer dependent on the world behaving itself. The storm can arrive, plans can change, people can disappoint you, fortune can move, and you can still remain standing. Not because nothing affects you, but because you finally understand. The first thing chaos wants from you is your mind, and you do not have to give it away. Eventually, you have to accept something that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. Life will not always cooperate with you. There will be seasons when your effort produces nothing. times when people misunderstand you, moments when someone you trusted becomes a stranger, days when the future looks nothing like the future you planned. You will lose things, you will make mistakes, you will receive news you wish you could erase, and sometimes you will do everything correctly and still lose. This is where philosophy stops being an idea. This is where it becomes necessary, because Stoicism was never meant to guarantee you victory. It was meant to teach you how to remain yourself, even when victory is denied to you. Marcus Aurelius could not prevent the plague. He could not prevent every war. He could not prevent people from betraying him. He could not prevent those he loved from dying. He could not stop time, neither can you, and yet look at how much remains. You can still decide whether difficulty makes you bitter. You can still decide whether disappointment makes you cruel. You can still decide whether failure becomes an excuse. You can still decide whether fear chooses your next move. You can still decide whether another person's behavior is allowed to determine your character. This is your territory. Protect it, because the moment you surrender your inner state to external events, you give the world a power it was never supposed to have. Someone insults you, and suddenly they control your evening. Someone rejects you, and suddenly they control your confidence. A financial setback happens, and suddenly fear controls every decision. A plan fails, and suddenly one failure controls your entire identity. Think about what you are giving away. Hours, days, sometimes years. Not because the original event lasted that long, but because you continued carrying it. The Stoic does not ask you to become indifferent. He asks you to stop carrying what no longer needs to be carried. The insult happened, put it down. The mistake happened, learn from it, then put it down. The opportunity disappeared. Look for the next one. The person left. Let them leave. Yesterday is finished. Stop trying to negotiate with a closed door. Your strength belongs here, now. And this moment is smaller than your mind makes it seem. You do not need to survive the next 10 years tonight. You do not need every answer. You do not need certainty. You do not need everyone to understand you. You do not even need to feel confident. You need only enough clarity to make the next correct decision. Then another. Then another. This is how calm is built. Not by eliminating uncertainty, but by learning that uncertainty does not require panic. Not by eliminating pain, but by learning that pain does not require surrender. Not by eliminating difficult people, but by learning that difficult people do not require you to become difficult yourself. Not by eliminating storms, but by becoming someone who knows what to do when the sky turns dark. And there is enormous freedom in that, because suddenly the world has fewer ways to control you. Traffic can delay you without owning your mood. Criticism can reach you without rewriting your identity. Failure can hurt you without defining you. Loss can wound you without destroying your character. Uncertainty can surround you without entering the center of your mind. This is what real emotional strength looks like. It is not constant happiness. It is not pretending you don't care. It is not smiling while everything burns. It is the ability to look directly at reality without exaggerating it, without running from it, without demanding that it become something else, and then asking, what is required of me now? That question can save you from countless hours of unnecessary suffering, because it returns you to action. The past cannot answer it. Fear cannot answer it. Anger cannot answer it. Only you can, and sometimes the answer will be uncomfortable. Leave, stay, apologize, start again, wait, work, save, speak. Remain silent, accept the loss. Change the plan. Whatever it is, do it without adding unnecessary drama. There is already enough difficulty in life. Do not manufacture more inside your own mind. Seneca warned repeatedly about suffering in imagination, and human beings have become extraordinarily skilled at it. We suffer conversations before they happen, failures before they occur, losses before they arrive. We experience disasters in our minds, then experience them again if they actually happen. Sometimes the disaster never arrives at all, and we still paid for it emotionally. Once, twice, 100 times. Ask yourself, how many terrible days have you experienced because of events that never happened? How many nights have you lost trying to control tomorrow? How many arguments have you rehearsed with people who were not even in the room? How much life have you sacrificed? To possibilities, preparation is wisdom. Obsessive worry is not. Prepare for what you can, then release what you cannot. That is not laziness. That is disciplined attention. Your attention is limited. Your time is limited. Your life is limited. Do not spend them trying to control the uncontrollable. Use them where your power actually exists. Your judgment, your actions, your standards, your response, your character. This is enough, more than enough, because a person who governs these things becomes remarkably difficult to defeat. You can take away his comfort, but not necessarily his discipline. You can take away his approval, but not necessarily his self-respect. You can change his circumstances without changing his principles. You can close one road and watch him search for another. You can place him inside uncertainty and discover that he does not require certainty to move. That is resilience, and resilience is not created when the storm arrives. It is revealed there. It is created now, during ordinary days, when you practice patience over reaction, when you stop complaining about things you cannot change, when you intentionally delay your response, when you separate facts from the stories your mind creates, when you accept small inconveniences without treating them like disasters, when you learn to lose without losing yourself. Every ordinary moment is training, so that when the extraordinary moment arrives, your mind recognizes the work. Marcus Aurelius did not know which morning would bring another war, another death, another political crisis, another disaster, but he could prepare his character every morning. So can you. You do not know what is coming. That is precisely why you should stop trying to predict everything and start becoming someone capable of meeting more things. Build a mind that can adjust. Build principles that survive changing circumstances. Build financial discipline before uncertainty arrives. Build patience before someone tests it. Build courage before fear demands it. Build calm before the storm. Then, when life suddenly changes direction, you may bend, you may hurt, you may need time. But you will not immediately break, and one day, something that once would have destroyed your entire week will happen. You will feel the old reaction rising, the anger, the fear, the urge to panic, but this time, you will notice it, you will wait, you will breathe. You will look at the situation exactly as it is, and instead of asking, why is this happening to me, you will ask, what belongs to me now? And everything will become quieter. Not outside. Outside may still be chaos. The storm may still be raging. The problem may still exist. Nothing may have been solved yet, but inside there will be space, and inside that space, choice. Inside choice, strength. Inside strength to freedom. That is the goal. Not to control the storm, not to command fortune, not to force life into obedience, but to become the one place the storm cannot command. So when everything goes wrong, remember, you do not need the world to calm down first. You do.